Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Jackson from La Trobe University, and my presentation is entitled Mathematics Support, Essential at the Best of Times, Crucial at the Worst of Times. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. This is a tale of two maths support deliveries, one BC, before COVID, the other DC, during COVID. For we are yet to experience AC, after COVID. It was early January 2020, and the Maths Hub at La Trobe had already begun its sweet outreach to students working on their summer subjects. The Maths Hub space located in the main library was cool and inviting, a safe haven for those needing skills refreshment, nurturing or guidance. It was also the place to go for those in need of cooling off from the hot summer sun, or those wishing to escape the inhalation of smoke from the relentless bushfires. The Maths Hub was improving at every turn. The space had doubled in size from previous years. A science hub, coding hub and academic skills hub had developed, each almost cloned to mimic the Maths Hub, and were becoming almost as popular and grand as the vibrant Maths Hub, with its record attendances and outstanding feedback. Yes, all was going well. The Maths Hub team and the other hubs teams were primed and ready for the onslaught of students arriving for semester one. We even merged into one big, huge space instead of each having our own spaces, and became one gigantic, impressive support centre. Semester one began. Students from near and far found out about the support, and many more began to engage in and appreciate the Maths Hub. Maths Hub not only had tutors who answered maths problems from different disciplines, they had tutors who showed them the relevance of maths to their discipline and what skills they needed for success in their course. They were even provided with Maths Hub modules to work through, worksheets, videos and quizzes. Yes, it was a wonderland of maths support, with nice, caring, empathetic tutors listening and helping. Free Maths Hub pens, highlighters, workbooks. It was beautiful. And then it happened. The dark, imposing, threatening, unbeatable onslaught of COVID-19 stopped us all in our tracks and forced us to innovate. Inconvenient for some, stimulating and challenging for others. The university stopped classes for a week while we transitioned. We had to adapt. There was no choice. We had to move to full online learning in the wink of an eye. What were we going to do? How were we going to support the students? Would the students and tutors adapt? Could the students and tutors adapt? And what would they be adapting to? Action stations. All tutors to attend compulsory Zoom training sessions. Timetable to be written, with Zoom links. Equip all tutors with suitable equipment for use at home. Create Zoom attendance record keeping. Advertise to students and lecturers. Then D-Day arrived, delivery day for Maths Hub Online. All tutors reported ready for action. Sessions began. Whiteboards were on the ready. Sharing files with annotation was available. Attendances were organised through chat and Zoom reports. Feedback requests were to be advertised in the chat. Yes, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times because students could Zoom into support sessions any time that suited them. Whiteboards made explanations clear and accessible. Students could Zoom in from anywhere, extending outreach. The interactive annotate function was a success. Students and tutors could share files. Options to address one student or many students at one time gave flexibility for addressing different scenarios. But it was also the worst of times. Students and tutors were isolated and missed the social interaction of the hub. Internet glitches and connection issues were a worry for some, although usually solved in a short time. Shy, weaker students expressed worry at the prospect of others listening in, so fears had to be allayed and addressed. Tutors had to discern who, what, why and when for each session. Things like organisation of queues, waiting times, who can, should listen in. These things had to be organised and actioned. Then the Maths Hub analysis began. The tutor feedback. How were they coping? The student feedback. How were they coping? The suggestions, the general comments. Were we going okay? Were our numbers down? How was the outreach going? Was the online Zoom support really working? How were we comparing to previous years? Any trends? Any problems? We watched the attendances carefully day by day, then week by week, then month by month, scrutinising the trends. We started just a little above last year's attendances at the end of week 2 with 369 for 220 in comparison to 343, 219. Then the university had a week's break to transition to online delivery. In week 3, as we began the Zoom help sessions, there was a slight drop in attendance, which we expected, but then there was a steady rise, so similar to 219, so consistent, almost a mirror image. It was remarkable. The Zoom help sessions were being utilised and were just as popular as our face-to-face sessions in 2019, and we eventually surpassed 2019 at the last minute, ending with 2,077 attendances in 220 in comparison to 2,043 in 2019. We had managed to keep our popularity and steadily increase visits throughout this disruptive time. Unique student visits were down, as expected. There were less students than last year in some of the subjects, but not all. Engagement had increased for the unique visitors. What was also interesting was the engagement in the self-regulated Maths Hub modules of worksheets and quizzes. They increased almost threefold. Why? Well, newly written quizzes were now more accessible as they were before. The Maths Hub site was set with a whole lot of quizzes that were on that platform and that could be accessed easily. It was a lot easier than what we'd had before. There was outreach to more disciplines with more Maths Hub modules created. We had a new user-friendly revamped LMS site and the Maths Hub was more appealing. Videos from coordinators encouraged students to join in and explanation of relevance was highlighted. Maybe COVID-19 had an impact. Perhaps students had more time to learn and refresh their skills. Increased reliance on online learning may have engaged more students than usual. Whatever the case, analysis of the comparison of Semester 1 220 and Semester 1 219 was riveting. The first two columns show the number of students in each subject for 220 and 219. Then the Maths Hub visits are compared for the 2 years, then the unique visitors, and then the Maths Hub module engagement numbers, which in 2019 were called Maths Skills engagement numbers. There was marked increases in Maths Hub module engagement in some subject. In biology, about 6 times more engagement in the modules and about 5 times more in 2 chemistry subjects. Engagement in the new Maths Hub modules for business and economics was also encouraging. It was interesting to note that in some subjects where Maths Hub visits were down, Maths Hub module engagement had actually increased. We could see huge increases in engagement in some subjects, like nursing. Maths Hub module for nursing engagement had almost tripled, from 253 in 220 and 94 in 219. And the very popular vector calculus had increased its students' maths sub visits from 327 to 574. Amazing. And there was also a 5-fold increase for those doing statistics modules in a couple of those subjects. For each of the participating subjects, comparison of the pass rate of those students who visited the maths hub with the pass rates of those who did not was compared. In almost all cases, except for a few with low participation rates, those visiting the maths hub were getting higher pass rates than those who did not. Here the blue bars represent the subject pass rates, the orange bars represent the maths hub visitors pass rates, and the off-white bars represent the maths hub non-visitors pass rates. This is for semester 1, 2019. Were we going to get similar results for 220? Yes, the trend continued with a vengeance. We were extremely pleased and impressed with this. And a similar analysis of the students who engaged in a maths sub-module within their subjects showed similar trends. Here, the pink bars represent the pass rates within a subject of those students who engaged in a maths hub module or in maths skills programs. From 2019 we called it Maths Skills Program. In 2020 we called it Maths Hub Modules. The blue bars denote the subject pass rate and the off-white bars represent the pass rate of the students who did not engage. This was for semester 1, 2019. For semester 1, 2020, there were similar strong results shown. In almost all cases, those students who engaged in a Maths Hub module had a higher pass rate than those who did not. And then there was the feedback. Wonderful feedback in 2019. I love the Maths Hub. It's pretty good, 10 out of 10. 100% very friendly. I love the Maths Hub. It's really cool. Extremely helpful. Learnt heaps. Was the feedback going to be as good this time, with all the disruptions due to COVID-19? We wondered. It was a relief to find the wonderful feedback continued in the circumstances. Love the Maths Hub. I'd be lost without it. It's a wonderful resource. Great teachers. It's the best service I have received at La Trobe. Helpful, joyful, enthusiasm, thoughtful, open-armed. Absolutely necessary given the current circumstances. Yes, it was the best of times, even though it was the worst of times. And that is the end of my tale. Many thanks to the Maths Hub team of tutors and to the students who make the Maths Hub the vibrant place it is today. Thank you for listening.